Okay. Well, thank you again for your time, Leanne.
You're welcome.
I just
I'm
wanted to
excited that you're working on this, so I'm happy to help.
thank you. I mean, you are very much an expert in this, so I'm very happy to get your thoughts. And we could start off just in general. I'd like to hear your thoughts on how workplaces facilitate or hinder healthy living, kind of in what you've seen or in your opinion.
Oh, that's a good question. I think, so in terms of how they help or facilitate, I think there's good intentions with a lot of companies. And I think they, doing things like discounts on gym memberships or team sports. Like a lot of companies do, like the kickball leagues, and they'll sponsor a team to go, to play in a league against other corporations. A lot of times when the teams do, department offsites or team offsites, where they go and do team building and things like that. A lot of companies do incorporate things like whether it's an exercise or fitness class, whether it's an outdoors like kayaking or hiking or something like that. I think companies do a good, put a good effort around that. The thing in my point of view is that those are one-offs versus the consistent behaviors that we have in the workplace on an ongoing basis. I guess another thing that a lot of companies also do is they'll do kind of, maybe it's once a year or something like this when the whole company gets together or something along those lines. They'll offer screenings, right? So blood pressure, you're checking your cholesterol, checking your weight or your body mass index, things like that. And then, giving you a number, but they don't really do any ongoing support. So I think that's where the growth really can be, is in this more kind of the consistent aspect of it, right? So there's, if people are getting this, high cholesterol or, high blood pressure, okay, what kind of support tools can the company provide? Like, what can they do about that, right? Just go see your doctor, which then, a lot of doctors just like to, hand out pills or medications. But what kind of ongoing support can companies give? That's really where I see the growth coming from. So nutrition, right? So there's lots of Bagel Friday mornings, right? Or Pizza Fridays where they're, giving this. So like it's every week, right? So it's not just they have this one kind of maybe 3-day offsite a year where they do these fun outdoor activities, but every Friday, 52 weeks a year, they're giving their employees pizza for lunch, which, there's nothing wrong with pizza once in a while, but every week, like that's just not a good, staple in your diet. Stress is another big thing, providing, what is the stress relief, meditation opportunities, yoga opportunities, things like that. That a lot of companies are becoming more and more open to bringing those types of services into the workplace, because people are spending so much of their time at work, right? People, the work day is 8, 10, 12 hours. So there's no time for them, especially with family and friends and, children commitments. There's no time for them to go and say, okay, let me, I don't have time to go to the gym or go to yoga class or meditation. So there are companies that are bringing that in. The other things are just like, there's in terms of the food in the office, a lot of companies bring in, catered lunches, sandwiches, things like that in companies that I've both been in and both have clients that are working at. It's a lot of just not very healthy food that's brought in, and that can be 3 or 4 times a week in some companies. So people are really relying on what is available to them, or what the company is making available to them, and the company is not really providing healthy options. Then there's, of course, like the candy drawers that people have. There's easy ways to have healthy options there. Things like that don't go bad, like nuts and other things like that. That could be, better than a candy bar that people reach for. So so I think like those are more consistent things that they could do over the course of over time, that people that would just kind of, they're small things, but they make kind of a big difference. And I think the biggest thing is probably looking at employees as a whole person versus data, right? So I mentioned how some companies do these screenings of the blood pressure, the cholesterol, etc. That's all data-based, right? That doesn't tell me, like I say to you all the time, right? Like, I don't, like, that doesn't tell me anything. Or when you read, say, an article about like what's good or what's bad, like it depends on what's going on in the person. So maybe that person's blood pressure is high because they eat too much salt and they're stressed out, right? So there's other ways beyond like blood pressure medication, which a doctor might give them, that companies can really help, whether it's a 30-minute meditation class during lunch, or not providing those salty snacks in the office, that could really help that person. But when you're just looking at the data, a la the blood pressure, there's no way to kind of tell that. So I think it's really, like, if I have to boil it down, it's a very long answer to say, companies have good efforts in kind of these one-off times or experiences, but a lot of their other actions on a more ongoing basis could be much better for the health of their employees.
That's completely makes sense to me. And in fact, kind of one of the main drivers of why I decided to focus on the workplace, as I had started on health and wellness kind of in general and narrowed it down on the workplace, is because I was looking at preventative health.
Yeah.
And what I realized was there's a lot of campaigns telling us to exercise, eat more vegetables, and kind of for the most part, people know that exercise is good for them, or that vegetables is good for them. But we also know that at least half of our health is determined by our lifestyle. Mm-hmm. But the constraint is kind of that our lifestyle is affected by the institutions we're part of, kind of like the organizational culture that we spend most of our time in, which for most of us is our workplace.
Right.
And on this point on consistent behavior, one of kind of the main, I think, obstacles is the fact that we have to sit for most of the day to conduct our jobs.
Yep.
Wonder if you have any thoughts. I know there's standing desks, but they're not even like that common, I think, at this point. But what thoughts you have on like kind of involving more consistent physical activity in the workflow? Like how can companies promote that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's interesting. At Heineken, we did have a lot of standing desks, and they did actually offer that probably about a year and a half ago. They also had the big balls that you could sit on, because that helps you. You have to keep your core engaged to be able to do that. And it's not, you're still, sitting. You still get that kind of crease in your legs, but the balls, the standing desks. But something that they were talking about was actually meeting rooms where you had treadmills, so you could walk. So having, say, 6 treadmills in just a space instead of a conference table, where people could stand and walk. You're not running, but at least you're standing, you're walking, the blood is flowing a little bit, and you're having that conversation. A lot, that could be like, my boss and I actually used to do walking meetings where we worked in Midtown Manhattan, and we would just go out for an hour and, walk around. That could be something that, people are encouraged to do. In my program that I am doing with my corporate program, there's wellness challenges where I try and institute behaviors, right? So also a lot of companies, they may do like a weight loss challenge, that they do a weigh-in at, and then do another weigh-in 4 months later or whatever it is. But there's a lot of unhealthy ways, as we know, to lose weight. So these challenges that I do are more like things to get good behaviors, right? So for instance, of 30 days, the people who get the most nights with 6+ hours of sleep, or the most days of 7 servings of veggies, or the most days with 8 glasses of water. So they're doing, and one of them is, most meetings, walking meetings or standing meetings or things like that. so that there is actually, people love competition. And integrating that into kind of an incentive program, and then there's a prize every month and it can be small or large depending on the budget of the company. It could be something like a Fitbit, or it could be a water bottle for the water month challenge, like something like that. But there are ways to kind of and then the half-hour yoga class, which I mentioned. So everybody's not into like a full vinyasa flow style. But I offer a 30-minute yoga class during lunch in a conference room in chairs. You stay in your work clothes, so anybody can do it. And it's really just it's standing up. Since you can see me, I can show you. It's like I have a chair here, so it's like standing up and putting your knee. So it's almost like Warrior 2. But so like anybody can do this in your work clothes. You don't need to like be in full yoga to kind of stretch out the hips, right? It's standing, with your hands behind, clasping your hands behind your back to stretch your shoulders. All the kind of things that the hips, the shoulders, the neck, that can be done by anybody, even if you're not a yogi. But it's just kind of the stretching, and it can be done in a conference room and things like that. So those are definitely some ideas that are, that can help with that kind of sitting at your desk, all day.
Oh, that's awesome. Now I have a few questions for you just said.
Yeah.
One, you mentioned that Heineken, they were thinking about meeting rooms with treadmills. Was that implemented, or it was kind of just an idea thrown around?
So I'm not sure. So they are in the process, literally, of moving from Manhattan to White Plains next week. And as they were talking about designing the new office space, that was one of the discussions that they were having about doing that. So I don't know, since I left, where that landed. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you would go on walking meetings with your boss. I'm curious, was that something did you suggest that, or did she or he suggest that? And is that
it kind of came out organically. We would generally start our meetings, it's generally like, let's go grab a coffee. So then, like, I think one time it was actually him who said, you want to just walk? And it was like, yeah, let's do it. It was a beautiful day outside, and we're like, let's just go it was 2:00 in the afternoon. Like, yeah, let's go for a walk. And then from there, we kind of said, all right, well, let's do this. So I would just, take like a Post-it note, or like in my phone, like write down like what I needed to talk to him about, and that's how we would have our meeting. So it kind of it was more just organic in how it started.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's something. I remember when I was at work, it's something that I kind of felt like I wanted to do, but I wonder like how much is dictated also by the culture. Like if people are receptive to that, or if you're gonna be like, no, that's weird, or how to create that habit.
Yeah. And that's where I really think that those, like, the challenges kind of come in if you have like a program in place, because it's those behaviors, and like there needs to, like, unfortunately, there needs to be, I think it's two things. There needs to be an incentive sometimes to do that. So if it's a challenge, if you're competing, even if there's no prize, but you're like going to get like the pat on the back, or you're going to be the winner of the month. There's that. But there's also then the experience of doing it for yourself, right? And seeing, like, once you do that, then you're like, okay, I feel so much better. My back is not bothering me as much because I, had 6 walking meetings this week. And you kind of start to notice that, like, just like if you were to have a lot more water during the day, right? And you're like challenged because you're doing this because you want to compete against your other coworkers, but then you're like, oh, I didn't snack as much because, I'm starting to realize, it was actually, I was maybe more thirsty than I was hungry. Like, so it's that kind of experiencing it for yourself aspect that is really important. So I think it is that kind of the incentive and the experience of experiencing yourself, and that kind of helps to connect the dots in my life.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And what reception have you had with how long have you been doing the corporate program?
I'm just really starting. So I think in general people are really excited about it.
Mhm.
But I think in general the reaction I get, just everybody wants to be healthier. But it's more about people wanting quick fixes. And that becomes like, oh well, it's not just going to be something I have to do something, or it's going to be work, or so I think I haven't really seen. I'm just starting with the corporate, so I haven't seen necessarily a reaction yet. But hopefully, I can update you on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm curious though, because I feel like this 30-minute yoga at your desk is like a great idea because probably, I mean, I remember I tried once to go to like a noon yoga class, and it was just kind of just took so much time because of the changing, the getting there, the coming back, the kind of sweaty, and it just felt like too much time to take from work during the day. But this sounds like you're trying to kind of really organically integrate it into the workday, which is really what I'm trying to understand, because it's what's going to really create the consistency you mentioned.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing about, so just to your question that you just asked about kind of reaction, I think what's helpful is that, so I also have office hours. So people can sign up for 20-minute time slots to talk to me privately about any kind of health and nutrition questions that they have that they may not want to ask like in a group setting. And that's something that I think people are really like, because doctors, when they go to their doctor, the doctor comes in and the doctor's trying to see a lot of patients, right? And, in and out, here's a prescription. They don't take the time to talk about nutrition or sleep or stress or all those types of things. So that's something that I think, the company providing them with a health coach for them to ask those personal questions about, I think is something that's kind of really seen as positive, because they're like, okay, the company's investing in me. They're interested in me being able to talk about this thing where I know like I don't necessarily talk to a doctor about it. I don't want to pay to go to a nutritionist, maybe. So that it's kind of like, okay, well, I can have maybe a 10-minute conversation with someone just to get some ideas on what I could potentially try. So that's something that I think is seeing, a positive reaction.
To a certain extent, you also become kind of like a health coach, and individually to each of them.
It can be like, it can then parlay into more of a a relationship, but it could just be someone coming in and be like, oh, I'm not I haven't been really sleeping well, so then I can spend 10 minutes maybe asking a couple questions and then saying, okay, here are 3 or 4 things that you can try to maybe help you sleep better. Whether or not we follow up, or like, because it's more like a monthly thing where I go in and do a presentation to a larger group on a specific health topic. And then after that, there's time for people to sign up to talk to me about a personal issue if they would like to.
Okay. And what do you think, you thinking about how you are designing your corporate wellness program, what do you think, besides you mentioned quick fixes, what do you think are going to be like challenges both in adoption and kind of when you're gone, like once you're not there telling them what to do or how to do it, what do you think are the challenges that you're going to be facing?
Their challenges or
their challenge. Well, their challenges, and you can speak to yours as well.
Yeah. I think the thing is that a lot of people want to change. They either don't know what to do to do that, or they do and they let other priorities get in the way, right? So a lot of people someone might say, I'm training for the marathon, for instance. I'm hearing that a lot lately. But I haven't been able to, get out into, and do my training because something's happened at work, or, I had this dinner with friends, or so, my question is, well, what is that like? what level of priority is that for you? And they say, oh, well, it's a 9 or a 10. Well, it doesn't seem that way if you're letting things like, extra work or dinner get in, that may be the case, but maybe is that really a priority for you? So I think it's more the questioning, like not having someone to, I think just talking out loud a lot of times, we're able to connect the dots on our own. It's having someone to ask the right questions. And I think, to your point, like not being, around all the time, or after, a few months and I go away, that would be kind of where it's, again, it's about consistency. And, even going in and talking to a group for an hour about a particular topic, they may take away maybe 2 or 3 things, right? Even though I may talk about 15 things, 2 or 3, they're actually, and it's going to be 2 or 3 different things for every person. So, it's a challenge, I think, there in terms of consistency as well.
And if you were to say, one thing that, or key things that employers should be focusing on, what would you say it should be for the health of?
I think one is treating their employees as a whole person and not as data.
Okay.
And a lot falls into that. So, I think, stress management or meditation, that is, that's huge. A lot of companies I've seen have instituted no email policies after 7 p.m. Or whatever time, so that because I think especially now with the expectation that you're supposed to be on and reachable at all times, everybody's you're always looking at your phone, you're answering emails at 9 o'clock at night, at midnight, at 5 a.m. when you get up, whatever it is. So Heineken did do that for a while. It kind of fell off, but they did a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. no emails.
Cool.
The thing is that not everybody participated. People be like, well, it was more like, unless something's always a crisis to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more like teams they started to do it by department. But then there was always like, oh, well, someone's traveling, or, so they're in a different time zone, or, oh, this big opportunity came up that we need to jump on tonight because we need to make a decision first thing in the morning. So, it's, and there's also the kind of, the inability to say, no, or to, your boss emails you and is like, I'm really sorry, it's after 8 o'clock, but so you want to respond to them. So it wasn't, I would say, kind of really enforced by the management. They came up with it. It was all, their good intention. There were some teams that did it. I was on a team where our leader, our team of 10 people, he was very adamant about it, and he did not send emails, and he, really expected us not to, not to either send or email as well. So it really depended on kind of the leadership in the group. But, it was I think, well-intended idea, right? Because then you're not expecting an email to come in, so you can just put your phone away because you are not expected to answer it until after 7 a.m. the next morning, kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And what would you say would be one thing or a few key things that employees should focus on?
Actually, let me add one more to the the company. I think because it's related, it's supplying healthy options to their employees, right? Because employees are going to eat what's available, what's in front of them. That we all do. We all eat what's in front of us.
Yeah.
So if there is a healthy lunch option, that's what I'm going to eat because that's what's there. I may not have time to run out to the the lunch spot around the corner to get something myself. So I'm going to eat what's in front of me. So if the company provides healthy options, then that's what their employees will be eating. On the flip side, for the employees, taking some accountability and kind of personal responsibility as well, and not just taking what's provided to them. So I always kind of got made fun of in a fun way, but lunch would come in and I'd be like, nope, it's sandwiches. I'm running across the street to go get soup and a salad, or that was a priority for me. So I'd rather go and spend the money and come back, or I was bringing my own lunch a lot because then I knew I was having what I liked. So even, everybody was kind of like, oh, great, we have a lunch meeting, so we'll have food brought in. And it was, it could be Cuban or Mexican or sandwiches or whatever. And they were always like, oh, of course, Leanne brought her own, or Leanne went and got her own. But for me, it was a priority for me to have, taking that personal accountability and responsibility is key, because it's easy for an employee to turn around like, well, that's what they gave me, so that's what I'm going to have. Well, okay, but you do have other options, especially, in Midtown Manhattan, there are plenty of options for you to get. So I think, for employees, it is, if your health is a priority for you, then there are certainly things that you can do. You could also talk to your HR department or your boss or whomever is the appropriate person at your company about, hey, could we bring in some healthy options for lunch, right? Again, going back to that personal responsibility. I think the other thing is, putting up appropriate barriers. So like I said, with the example of the 7 p.m. email, right? So if more employees said, hey, there's this rule that you, Mr. Manager, have set, but you're breaking it, no, the rule's in place, I'm not going to break it, I'm not going to email. But that just wasn't the case. So it goes back to kind of the individual having a lot more, putting up that barrier and saying, no, sorry, this is the rule, and I'm going to, abide by it or follow it because it was put in place for the health of everybody. So I want to kind of maintain that. So it's a little bit more, speaking up and personal responsibility on the side of the employee.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, thank you very much. I don't have any more questions, but if you have more thoughts on anything related to health at work, I'm all ears.
I think I got a lot of the main things that I generally talk about. I think it's really putting the consistent support in place is the key thing. Whether it's a one-on-one coaching opportunity, whether it's a group thing, because work is just where, like you said, we spend so much of our time, and providing whether it's the stress relief, the healthy food options, that's just really important, and a lot. The thing is, companies, when they do that, the employees feel that the company is taking an interest in their health. It raises productivity. It reduces sick time and sick leave. It reduces burnout, right? People get I can't work, 3 months straight, 12-hour, 14 hours a day. If they are putting in place consistent measures of support, they're going to kind of help with all those things, which is in turn going to help reduce the insurance premiums for the company as well. To your point of the preventative maintenance, right? All of these things in the long run will actually help the company's bottom line by reducing the insurance premiums that they have to pay, because people aren't getting, diabetes or high blood pressure and having to go see doctors and be on medications and all this type of thing if they're kind of helping the preventative side on the upfront. And companies is where, I think we really companies have the scale to have a larger impact. Because a lot of people, while they want to be maybe healthier, take care of themselves, they either don't know what to do, they don't have the time, resources, there's a fear of change. But if the companies can provide simple tools on a consistent basis, they could open up people's eyes a lot more to what a healthy lifestyle can be, and how it can kind of enhance people's lives.
Mm. All excellent points.
Thank you.
True. Yeah, true.
So what are your next steps for your project?
Well, the challenging part, so the method of research that we're encouraged to use is observatory research, a lot of observations.
Uh-huh.
And so I've been kind of tasked to try to go observe workplaces, which has been a challenge because who wants some like random student like lingering around and like taking notes and interrupting people and asking them about their work experience and how often they're standing up and if their hips hurt and like all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm supposed to be at right now. And I haven't really gotten to observe much because of what I've just mentioned. To get access to like co-working spaces, they seem a little bit more
yeah, they would be into that.
Open, yeah, and they don't particularly necessarily like have wellness anything, There's that part, and then I'm trying to get access to people that are participating in some sort of wellness program at their workplace, and have them do some sort of like participant diary where I can kind of document their experience and do like some sort of journey map.
Okay.
Find like the areas that could be better.
Gotcha.
Or that are that are not working or that could be better on these people that are participating.
Yeah.
And then kind of just looking at people's workflow and seeing like, hey, maybe little things like getting up or like the walking meetings that you were mentioning or getting these other small steps that can be done every day can be suggested. Ultimately, at the end of the semester, we're supposed to have some sort of concept that the following semester we can ultimately maybe build something. So whether it's a product, a service, something that I can see something being like maybe something that would be interesting for you as a health coach to use as a tool with your clients, or something that a company would be interested in getting for their employees, or something for employees themselves to get, and if they're prioritizing their health. So I'm not necessarily sure what the end outcome will be, but that is the direction.
Gotcha. Okay. So I have like two thoughts on that. So I know. So the end of your semester is the end of like December?
The beginning of December.
Beginning. Oh, okay. As I was going to say, I'll probably be going up to Heineken in November. If you wanted to come with me and just like observe, I mean, it would be more. I think they'd be totally open to that. Okay. I don't know the date. They're in a big meeting, a national meeting this week, so it won't be till probably next week that we get a date on the calendar. It's probably going to be sometime in November. But I'm happy to have you come with me and just like sit in on the, on the presentation that I give. And then, I know enough people I could just on the side say like, hey, can you just talk to her? She has some questions for you. So I can keep you updated on that.
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, just kind of as you talked about, like what product or service you could develop. So, just a thought, like as I mentioned, those like the teen challenges. That's something that I haven't really started that yet. But for me, I would need like a tool that would be beneficial. Would be I don't know whether it's an app or what it is, but to be able to like track that, right? So if we have 150 people, say in an office, over say it's a 6-month program, right? And it's like 3 weeks of who can drink who has the most days of 8 glasses of water. The next 3 weeks are who has the most days bringing their lunch to the office. And it's all these things that in my mind are the behavior builders that you can, right? Because then people, once they start to do this, they start to say like, oh, I brought my lunch like 4 days out of this week and I feel a lot better and I saved a bunch of money and I wasn't snacking as much. Oh, and then, those are the behaviors that they start to carry on. But for me, like tracking that is something that I need to figure out how I'm going to do that, right? So are they like putting it, it would have to be self-reported, but do I have to keep a big Excel spreadsheet that I like make marks in? Do they have to submit something? I don't kind of yet know how that works. So like whether it's some type of app or some type of system that like maybe they could go into and log that, hey, okay, today I brought, I had my 8 glasses of water. The next, or at the end of the week, they said, okay, three days this week, I had my 8 glasses of water. It's something like that.
Yeah. I mean, with those, that kind of feeds into one idea that I've been thinking of, which is this idea of data visualization and how visualizations can help behavior change. So thinking about personal finance, when you can see if I put $1,000 and you start seeing like the graph of your money growing, if you're investing it or putting it in an interest-bearing account, kind of that analogy for health. So to your like if you are logging in your glasses of water, and maybe there's a visualization of like your hunger level, maybe it's going down, and how does that translate to your weight by the end of the month, or like kind of seeing it in a very kind of easy and visually appealing way. Like how does that support the consistent behavior that we're ultimately trying to build in people, which is what we know is like what's really going to make a difference.
Right.
So that's fantastic, and I'll definitely have that in mind as I'm doing interviews and talking to people that are in some type, because there's a lot of these kinds of challenges, or like Fitbit challenge or competitions. Like I know my boyfriend, he works at BlackRock, and they've done like weight loss competitions where they which I'm not like a huge fan of, because to your point, it's kind of like people will lose weight in all kinds of odd ways, and then the competition is over. You didn't really build the habits or the behaviors that will support that weight loss, and then what's the point if 2 months later you're back where you were or worse?
Exactly right. Yep. Yeah. And like these challenges, challenge that is behavior based.
Exactly. So I mean, I think it's a fantastic idea, and I will do more research on that. And like I'm participating in a hackathon all weekend, basically weekend on health.
Okay.
So it's with the data visualization people and whatnot. So it's something that I'll be thinking of in terms of development.
Awesome.
Talk about. Yeah, very cool.
I like it. That was funny. Cool. Yeah, no, so I'll definitely let you know about, probably the next 2 weeks or so, I'll find out about next date for Heineken.
Okay.
And I'm sure that would be fine for you to tag along and, at least just like see and then maybe talk to a few people. So
yeah, no, it'd be awesome to just even see it in action, and that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome, and congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you very much.
You haven't even graduated. You have all these things going. Amazing.
Well, now officially certified, which is good.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, as of last Monday.
Congratulations.
Certified. Yep.
I also finally got my yoga certificate because I woke up and I did it last weekend.
Oh, nice. Oh, congrats.
Thank you. It was funny. It was like full deja vu because there was another girl from our program, Lindsay, that was also doing a makeup that day.
Okay.
Fatia was working the front desk, so it was like all these familiar faces.
Oh, that's funny.
Room.
We're still one big happy family.
Exactly.
So whenever I go to Yoga Vita, there's like, I definitely see someone, either like Jacob at the desk or someone else in the class, or like they're coming and I'm going. So it's cool.
Yeah, it is. It's nice. It's nice to see the familiar faces.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right.
Well,
let me know if you have any more questions on anything. I mean, we'll be talking anyway, but if you have anything.
Awesome. Well, if you are open to so I'm going to start a trial on this program called Experience Fellows, which basically is just kind of a way to track experiences for people.
Okay.
An app on their phone that, like, if it's, say, for example, I want to know how a health program is working for them.
Okay.
It would be like kind of logging throughout the day, whatever they're doing, and like it's very simple. So kind of like there's like emotional faces for like how you're feeling, and then notes, and then pictures.
Yeah.
And ultimately that kind of like builds a map of the entire service or kind of or experience. Or, you know, a tangible example is a product, like actually work through a product, like how you're feeling kind of thing, or how you're using it. So I'm trying to recruit basically participants that are either, I'm going to have a group of people that are not doing anything wellness related, and hopefully a group of people that are. If you do know anyone that, whether it's your clients or people from your previous work experiences that you think would be interested in participating in this kind of stuff, and like, I'd be very, very appreciative if you can put me in touch with them, and I'll recruit them.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you have anything like written up that you could like share with me that I could?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm gonna hold off one more day because basically I'm trying to get this product for free for a month as a student.
Gotcha.
So I'm waiting for an email tomorrow to come through from this is this awesome product that they developed. It's in the Netherlands or something, and they have a very expensive like plan. And I was like, I'm a student, I'm doing, and their demo is 14 days, but they might do it free for a month. So if I get it, I will send it to you tomorrow with like the actual like app thing that people take a look at, and just more just like what I'm looking for.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd be happy to take a look.
Thank you. Awesome. Great. Thanks so much, Leanne.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, Anna.
Bye-bye.